Hi, my name is Scott, and I have read all of the Harry Potter books multiple times. I've seen all of the movies, and like most of my peers, I continue to be a Harry Potter enthusiast to this day.
And I'm Becki, and I have never read a Harry Potter book or seen any of the films, which makes me the ultimate Muggle.
Join us as we make our way through each book, section by section, where Becki will make predictions about what she thinks will happen next.
And Scott will try to convince me why it's a good series, worth reading, and maybe even worth loving.
Hi everyone, welcome to A Muggle's Guide to Hogwarts, where we're going to be exploring the Harry Potter series with a true Muggle, someone who has never read the books or seen the movies and really has no intention to do so. And that's Becki.
I've been bamboozled.
Becki's going to make a detailed prediction of what's going to happen chapter by chapter, and then she's going to read that section of the book. And afterwards, we're going to have a discussion and see how right or how wrong her predictions were, as well as just have a deep discussion about the book itself and its impact. And hopefully by the end of the series, Becki's going to come around and I will have converted a Harry Potter apathist into a Harry Potter lover.
Is apathist a word?
I wasn't sure.
I mean, it's accurate. It's definitely accurate. I'm just not sure about if it is an actual word.
It doesn't matter. We're making up words here.
Do they make up words in Harry Potter like in Dr. Seuss?
There's a lot of like spells and things that I think are made up, or they have foundations in some words, but add flair to them, you know? I don't most of the words in the story are not made up. Most
Okay.
of them are real words that exist.
That's good.
Yes. Each podcast episode will cover a few chapters from each book, starting with the Sorcerer's Stone or the Philosopher's Stone. And we're going to discuss the books.
Wait, there's an alternate title to the first book?
Yeah, what do you think the title to the first book is?
I have no idea, but you just said it was the Sorcerer's Stone or the Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah, there's two titles.
Those seem like very different things to me.
I think they do to a lot of people, but so the book was originally published as Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess for American audiences, Philosopher's Stone didn't make any sense. Like no one knew what it was. And so they changed the title to Sorcerer's Stone for the American audience.
Gotcha. So they just have a different interpretation of the word philosopher over there. Whereas we think it's like a high-minded, smart person. It's actually more magical?
I suppose so. Or maybe just the stone itself is just maybe interpreted to be a little bit different in the UK, or what like she originally intended. But
okay,
the title changed. There's a few other changes in the book versions as well. Like some of the language changed over to be less Britishy, I guess, and more American-y. I've never read a version of the Philosopher's Stone, but I know there are some differences. But I don't, they're not significant. They don't change the meaning of the book. But you'll figure that out. So we're going to discuss the books, the movies, probably other lore that's attached to Harry Potter as it comes up, and that's really going to be the focus of this podcast.
Yeah. Should we mention that we're dating?
Well, we could mention we're dating.
Okay. Does it matter?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
We're dating.
Yeah.
But I don't think that plays any role in what we're about to do.
Okay. Scott, what is your history with Harry Potter? What was your experience growing up? At what age were you introduced to it? What impact did it have on your childhood? And kind of like what lingering impact does it have on your adult life?
Sure. Yeah. I was really young when I got introduced to Harry Potter. So I'm 31 years old. Uh, so I'm like a full blown millennial, and I grew up reading Harry Potter. I grew up reading Harry Potter with my mom. I remember when I was really young, she would, like, when she put me to bed, we would read like a chapter or two of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone together. And I just have these awesome memories of her trying to do all these weird voices for like Hagrid and all these other characters. And it just, I don't know, it just kind of clicked, you know? And I think it did for a lot of people our age, of people just could connect with the characters, they could connect with the stories. And I think that's because, you know, millennials were really growing up with Harry Potter as he and his friends were growing up. I think I was a little bit younger than him. I think I was probably like 9-ish when I started reading the books. Uh, and and so I was a little younger than Harry when he was going through and experiencing the story. But all, like, really, it's pretty much the same. Like, we were both kids, both kind of experiencing this world together. And I think we can talk about that later. But I think that's one of the really cool things about Harry Potter. And one of the things that a lot of readers really enjoy is Harry's discovering a world, and we as the readers are also like discovering the world, walking along with him as he's doing it. And as a 9-year-old, that was even more impactful. So I grew up with it. I have always loved Harry Potter, and I think that has just grown. You know, I've become more interested in it. I've reread the books multiple times. I usually go through the books about once a year. I've
All of
listened.
them?
Yeah, normally I'll read all of the books about once a year. And I've also listened to the audiobooks a lot. I've listened to the Jim Dale audiobooks. I haven't listened to the Stephen Fry audiobooks, and I think that I need to fix that because I hear they're amazing. Um, and they're slightly different. I think Stephen Fry reads the Philosopher's Stone version actually, and Jim Dale reads the Sorcerer's Stone. Anyway, I need to do that. But the audiobooks are incredible. I mean, Jim Dale is fantastic and does really, really immersive reading of it with all the voices and everything else. I've been to Harry Potter World in Orlando, and I've walked through Diagon Alley, and I've gone through the rides. Was on the Hogwarts Express, and I've been through the castle, and it's just so cool for, you know, a Harry Potter fan to experience that.
How old were you when you went to Harry Potter World?
25, maybe. Yeah, 25. It was a few years ago. And it was just as magical then as it, I think, would be if I was 11. Yeah.
Did you spend like all day just in Harry Potter World?
Oh, yeah. I was down in Florida for a conference, and I took like the entire day off to go to Harry Potter World. And I didn't do anything else. I know there's a lot of other places down there, like as a part of, I guess, Universal Studios. I did not do anything else. I only did Harry Potter World and loved it. In fact, I loved it so much, like I bought one of the wands that interacts with the park.
Oh, I've heard of this scam. Is it the one where like
Yeah, they're pretty expensive.
They like they pick out a kid and they do this demonstration, and basically at the end, if the parents don't buy the kid the wand, they're an asshole. Are we allowed to say asshole on this podcast?
Absolutely. Yeah, so they do that. They do the whole kind of buy a wand shtick where they go. I don't want to give too much away about the book because you're going to be making predictions of it, but they do the whole thing where they kind of take a kid through buying a wand or getting a wand. And I wasn't selected for that because
you were a grown man.
Because I was a grown man. I was 25, so they didn't pick me.
As they shouldn't have.
I would have loved it though, but they didn't. I was there. I was in the room. I watched it happen. It was awesome. And then afterwards, I bought a wand, and they sell a couple different wands. They just sell like normal wands that don't actually do anything except with your imagination. But they also sell these wands that are like $50, or at least they were $50 when I went.
Yeah, they're probably
they might
a
be
lot
more
more now.
and they interact with different areas of the park. So you can go to different sections and you can stand on a specific spot and then you wave your wand in a certain way and it makes something happen in the park. So it feels like you're doing magic.
Okay.
So I bought one of those and I still have it.
Okay.
I'm really excited to give it to my
In this
niece.
house? You have it here?
No.
I don't think I've ever seen
it.
it.
I think it must be in my parents' house. Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm going to give it to my niece when she turns 11 because her name is Airy.
Ah.
And it's very close to Harry.
It is pretty close to Harry.
And I think that's really funny. So I've been excited to give her this wand that I've had for quite a long time.
Nice.
Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. Harry Potter has just kind of been around my entire life. It's been present in my life. I've shared it with my parents. I've shared it with my friends. And I love it. I would say I don't think I'm a Harry Potter fanatic. Like, I don't think you could put me in a Harry Potter trivia competition and I would know the most obscure facts about Harry Potter. And I certainly know people that do know very obscure facts about Harry Potter. But I think I could hold my own. Like, I think I know enough about Harry Potter that if you throw me in a Harry Potter trivia competition, I would do pretty well. I just wouldn't know. I definitely wouldn't win it. I would be middle of the road.
Gotcha.
And I think that's good. But I do enjoy kind of rereading them and discovering new connections or seeing things from a different angle, and just learning to appreciate the books in different ways. I think that's really fun. All right, so that was my experience with Harry Potter, but I think, what about you? Yours is a little bit different.
Yeah, mine is a lot more complicated, I guess, to say the least. So I am a couple of years older than Scott, and I've never read Harry Potter, as we've established. I wanted to do a little bit of research earlier and find out how old I was when the Harry Potter books were coming out, to kind of just really remember what place I was at in my life. And so I found out that although the first book came out in 1997, Pottermania, as it was called, wasn't sweeping the nation until 1999. And at that time, in that year, I was exactly 11 years old. So I feel like I was really growing up right in the thick of it. I mean, all of my friends, my neighbors, everyone was reading it. And I was not. And it wasn't that I wasn't a reader. I was actually a very avid reader. We were taking weekly trips to not one, but two libraries so that I could get enough books to read for the week. But I was never allowed to read the Harry Potter series. I grew up in a big family, 6 of us kids. And at this time, we were homeschooled. It was a very strict religious household, as the stereotype for big homeschool families goes.
Yeah.
And it was the kind where not only do you go to church on Sunday mornings, but you go to church Sunday evenings, Wednesday evenings, pretty much any time that the church doors were open, we as a family were expected to be there.
That's a lot of church.
It kind of was, but I guess it was all I knew. And because I was homeschooled, that was how I had friends. So you just accept kind of whatever conditions you grow up in. So to me, it was just normal.
Yeah. Just part of your life.
Yes. So right around this time, our pastor preached a sermon about the evils of Harry Potter. I distinctly remember this because, I was 10 or 11, and instead of when the sermon happened, usually the kids would go out and they would go to their own separate children's church. But on this particular day, we were all forced to stay in the grown-up church and listen to this sermon so that we would understand the evils of this book series, so that we wouldn't, make a bad decision at our school or whatever and read it or engage with it in any way.
Oh man.
Yes. And
So what specifically did he say? What did he warn you about?
I don't remember a ton of the details, but I do remember I had like my little notebook and I was like taking notes and I was just like kind of absorbing this information. There were some like numerology kind of references, like, oh, like if you add these things up, it makes a 666, or
if you add certain numbers up, it makes a 666.
Yeah, something like that. And
that is an argument that could be used for
totally. And then maybe there was like some reference to like historical Satanists or something like that.
What? I honestly, I don't think any of that is true. With Harry Potter, there are numbers that are important in Harry Potter, but 6s aren't one of them.
Okay.
And certainly there are, bad, evil people in Harry Potter that I guess could be like resemble a Satan-like figure. I don't know.
I don't know either. And after that sermon, I think like later that day when we were home, my dad like reiterated to us that like there would be no Harry Potter in our household and that we were not allowed to read it. Hard stop. So, I mean, that was it. Like, and I kind of had this realization. This is a little bit of a tangent. I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts, which is anything under the Armchair Expert umbrella. And they have one spinoff that's called Armchaired and Dangerous, where they delve into different conspiracy theories. And on this one particular episode, they were talking about the satanic panic movement of the late 1990s, early 2000s. And I remember listening to this episode just a few weeks ago, and I was shocked because I just thought that's what childhood was. I had no idea that was any kind of conspiracy or any kind of movement. Like, that was just my childhood experience growing up in this country. So that was quite a shock to me. It's like when you realize something and you can't unsee it.
Yeah. Oh, that's not what's going on here.
Yeah.
I get it. Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of the world I grew up in, so to speak. And it's not like all magic was bad. I mean, we were encouraged to read the Chronicles of Narnia series, even the Lord of the Rings series.
Why were you allowed to read those?
I think because, at least in my parents' eyes, it was like Christian magic.
Christian magic.
Yeah, okay. Jesus-y magic.
Yeah, Jesus magic is fine. But which
but
magic?
Not, yes.
Wizard?
I'm not sure
get
what
out of here.
drew I mean, it could be the authors. It could just be how it's marketed. Who knows? But it's not like I was completely oblivious to it. Our neighbors, which is another big homeschool family. There were 5 kids, 2 of whom were right around my age. So we grew up together. We're homeschooled next door to each other. Or sometimes we would even do like homeschooling classes together. Like I would go over there or they would come to my house. But they were also a big Christian family and they were reading Harry Potter. And they were like kind of like on the slide trying to like tell me about it and trying to like convince me that like it was worth reading. And like we just weren't allowed to, and I never really gave it much more thought.
So you never tried to read Harry Potter?
No, I mean, I probably could have, but it just never really crossed my mind.
Even when like friends that you know are like trying to convince you how good it is, you just didn't even really worry about it.
No, I think I was a little bit like under the spell. for lack of better expression, where I believed what my pastor said. I mean, I was like 11 years old and impressionable. I was like, oh, if I read this, I'm going to be evil.
Man, that's how they get you.
Yeah. And my neighbors were like trying to entice me. They're like, there's like this chocolate and it turns into a frog. And I was like, oh, okay. Like that is.
That's what they use to entice you.
And I was just kind of like, I don't know. I don't think it like mattered that much to me to go out of my way to try to like read it. Yeah. So then I got older and I went to like a normal public high school and graduated and went to college and was away from my family and was away from that way of thinking and living for a while. But I was just busy. I just never thought to pick it up. I was in college and then I was in grad school and, then I was in my late 20s and it just kind of never happened.
Kind of missed the window, you feel like?
I guess I kind of missed the window where it might be like fun and exciting.
Yeah.
So what did start to happen as I was getting older and friends would learn that I didn't know anything about Harry Potter is that they would kind of freak out. And it kind of became this like unique, special inside joke as Harry Potter references would come up and people would look at me and they'd be like, oh, well, Becki doesn't know anything about Harry Potter. And it was just really funny and they would laugh. And like, you do this too.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I do that all the time. Because there's Harry Potter is literally everywhere. Like there's references to Harry Potter all over the place. And every time I see something related to Harry Potter, I will turn to you and go, oh, you wouldn't understand this.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like all in like playful, good fun is how I've always felt about it, at least anyway.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
one of my friends in college had like this huge Slytherin tattoo. And I just remember being like, oh, like you really like snakes, like so it was just like this kind of like
that's amazing
different experience.
That's so crazy to me that you wouldn't recognize a Slytherin tattoo.
Yeah, it was crazy to her as well. But the longer that this has gone on, the more it's become a little bit of a part of my identity. It's just like this little thing about me that's like unique and different, and it's something I kind of like, which is why I'm a little bit nervous to be giving this up for this podcast, but I'm also trying to be optimistic about what I could gain from it, not just what I'm giving up.
This was my secret ploy to actually get you to read Harry Potter so you can know all the references.
I believe it. And truth be told, like I have been to Harry Potter World. Like I went with some friends. We didn't go to Harry Potter World because that would have been a waste of a day for me. We went to go to Universal Studios, but we spent a little bit of time in Harry Potter World because my other friends wanted to see it and they were like freaking out. And they also thought it was hilarious to point out things to me and be like, what do you think that is? Like, what do you think that is? Like, it was like, I was like this fun little toy for them for the day to like see it through the eyes of someone who has no experience with it. And they were freaking out about this castle and taking pictures. And then they were freaking out about this little town we were in. And then like, I was just confused because I was like, why are we in a bank?
Yeah.
Like I don't get it. I don't know what business this 11-year-old has going to a bank and how much funds he actually has to deposit. Like I don't get it.
That's why this is going to be so fun because now you're going to figure it all out and you're going to be like, that's where this bank
like,
comes
is he even
in.
old enough to have his own bank account?
I don't know. You're going to have to read it and figure it out.
Oh my gosh.
That is one of the questions I have for you, actually.
Oh, one more thing.
Okay.
I do want to state, in case it's not very clear, that I do not think Harry Potter is evil, and I do not
Okay,
believe.
good. Yeah, state that for everyone.
And I do not believe most of the things that I was raised to believe.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for establishing that.
No problem.
That's important. You're going into this with an open mind.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think Harry Potter is evil.
Correct.
And yeah, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question, and I think it's important to establish is like Harry Potter has been around for a long time. It's really ubiquitous in our culture, so it's hard to avoid. So even though you haven't read the books and you haven't seen the movies, there is some knowledge that you probably have about Harry Potter.
Yes, I have not been living under a rock.
Right.
For
it's hard to avoid.
however many years.
Yeah.
Yes, some things have seeped in for sure. And I'm sure they'll come up, but I can kind of, you want me to just go through a couple of things that I know, like broad stroke?
Tell us like the main things that you know about Harry Potter.
Okay. I believe I know what a Muggle is.
Mm-hmm. What do you think it is?
It is a non-magic person.
Right. Okay, that's good because we called you a Muggle earlier in this podcast.
Yes, I've been called a Muggle enough times, and it sounds really derogatory, and maybe it is, and maybe that's the point.
I think it is supposed to be a little derogatory.
But I've been called it enough times that I know what that is. Now, I don't know if in the world of Harry Potter, if you're like born Muggle or magic, or if it's just a certain kind of training that makes you magic, like when you go to Hogwarts, which is I guess essentially the boarding school to become magic. Yeah, I don't know if you can transfer from Muggle to non-Muggle.
Okay.
So that's that.
That's good things not to know.
Yes. I mean,
you'll learn about that.
Great.
What else do you know?
So I know that the series starts on Harry's 11th birthday, and so that the age 11 is really important to some people. Like, I remember you even telling me at one point that when it was coming up on your 11th birthday, you were really excited and wondering if you were going to get a letter from Hogwarts.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Big time. I was waiting to get that letter in the mail. It never came because Harry Potter is a fictional story. But that's why I'm also really excited for my niece to turn 11.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know that there are kids and that they are training to become wizards.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe there are 4 different categories of wizards.
4 different explain what you mean by 4 different categories of wizards.
I'm not sure what I mean by 4 different categories. It could be like breeds. Like innate breeds. It could be like choosing your major. Like, do you specialize in, I don't know.
So when they're learning magic, you there's like 4 different things that they could choose from.
Yeah, like teams.
Teams. Okay.
Maybe teams is better than categories.
Or breeds.
Breeds. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I think Slytherin was one of those.
Right.
Those teams because of my friend's tattoo.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because she was like, I'm a Slytherin. And I was like, I'm a walk-in. That was really bad. You can take that out if you want.
That was great.
That was not so great. Okay. I know they play a game or sport, rather, on broomsticks.
Wow. Okay.
Because I don't know. I think I've seen that on previews or something. I know that there's an evil guy.
Yeah.
And that he has a name, but you are not supposed to say his name.
Oh, okay. You know a little bit about this.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the zeitgeist, I feel like.
Yeah, you know some broad strokes about the series.
Yes. Oh, and I know that he has a scar on his forward? Oh,
On his forward what?
His forward brain. I know that he has a scar on his forehead that is in the shape of a lightning bolt.
Cool.
And that is what I know.
That's all you know about Harry Potter.
On this day about Harry Potter.
That's all you know. This is great. You know almost nothing. You know so little about Harry Potter.
Yes.
And you're going to know so much more.
Yes.
This is great.
I do have one other little thing. One other little kind of tangential experience with Harry Potter that's maybe less related to what we're doing, but more kind of fun facty.
Okay.
So I have worked with Daniel Radcliffe last year. I work in the film and TV business. I work on set as a costumer, and last year I worked on the Weird Al movie in which Daniel Radcliffe plays Weird Al Yankovic. So I've met him. I've hung out with him many times. I worked with him every day while we were filming. So there were a lot of Harry Potter enthusiasts on set who were very starstruck by him. And I was not, because I had.
You were just like with him all the time.
Yeah.
And didn't ask him a single thing about Harry Potter.
No, I mean, unspoken rule, you don't really talk to actors about past roles they've done anyway. But besides that, like, I had just had no experience of him in that role. And I think I came home the first day after filming and I told you, I was like, oh, I didn't realize he was British. like he had an accent, and it threw me off because I just never seen him in that
You've never heard
way.
him speak.
I had never heard him speak. Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so there might be some insider information that I give and pepper throughout this podcast just because of my experience with him.
Wow. Okay. That's really good to know. And a very fun fact. Okay, so let me explain the rules for what Becki's going to be doing. So Becki is going to be making some predictions about the story. So this episode, in the first episode of the podcast, Becki is going to be making predictions for what she thinks is going to happen in chapters 1, 2, and 3 of the Sorcerer's Stone. I've taken the Sorcerer's Stone, I've broken it down into several different sections, basically 3 chapters per section. She's going to be making predictions, and then in the next episode, we're going to discuss what actually happened. So between episodes, we're going to go and we're going to read those chapters of the book, and then we'll come back. In the next episode, we'll actually discuss what was right about her predictions, what was wrong about her predictions, and talk about what we were reading in general. So for this first prediction, there are a few rules. So here is how it's going to work. I am giving Becki the chapter names. I'm giving Becki the main characters in those chapters. So not chapter by chapter, but in that section of chapters, I'm giving her the main characters. And then I'm giving her the major locations in those chapters. So she will have the chapter names, the major characters, and the major locations. And then it's going to be her job to piece together what she thinks will happen in each one of those chapters. She will have to use every single character I give her and every single location. So she'll have to weave them together in some way to make her prediction for that section. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Are you ready for the first sections, the first couple of chapters?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
The first section you're going to be predicting is chapter 1, 2, and 3. Chapter 1 is called The Boy Who Lived. Chapter 2 is called The Vanishing Glass. And chapter 3 is called The Letters from No One. The main characters, the major characters within these 3 chapters are Vernon Dursley, who's also known as Mr. Dursley, Petunia Dursley, who's also known as Mrs. Dursley, Albus Dumbledore, Minerva McGonagall, Hagrid, Dudley Dursley. There's a snake in this section that I don't think has a name. It's just a snake, but it plays a significant role. And then, of course, Harry Potter is, he's going to be kind of a major character in every chapter, most of the chapters, but Harry Potter. And the major locations are 4 Privet Drive, Little Whinging, Mr. Dursley's work office, the zoo, and an isolated shack. Did you get all that?
Yes. And it's also written down in front of me. So
okay,
yes.
Great. So that's the chapter's names, the major characters, and their major locations. So now Becki is going to make a prediction about what she thinks is going to happen in the first section of the first Harry Potter book, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. All right, take it away.
Okay, so we start with the boy who lived. I'm assuming the boy is Harry Potter, and he lived, which then means that someone died. And I'm pretty sure Harry Potter's parents are dead. They don't appear to be characters in this section, and I feel like it makes sense for a story like this for Harry Potter to be an orphan. Okay, so Harry Potter's parents are dead, and Harry is alive, so he has to go live with these Dursleys, Mr. and Mrs. Dursley, and their son, Dudley Dursley.
Okay.
I believe maybe they are some kind of foster parent, some kind of situation where Harry isn't treated very well. Once again, just because that makes sense for this kind of story. And, I didn't mention this in things I know. I do know that he lives under a staircase at some point, because every time I'm at someone's house and they have like a closet under their staircase, they're like, it's my Harry Potter closet. And everyone laughs. And I'm like, okay.
I probably should have added that under major locations. It's the cupboard under the stairs.
The cupboard?
The cupboard under the stairs.
Okay. So he lives in the cupboard under the stairs with the Dursleys as their foster child or adopted child after his parents die. We know that he gets the letters from Hogwarts on his 11th birthday. So the story starts, he's turning 11, he gets a letter or multiple letters, I'm not sure.
Wait, okay. What do you think is like the first scene of the book? Is it him getting...
I think it's him in his cupboard.
Uh-huh.
And then maybe like the letter flies in or something.
The letter flies in his cupboard?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. So he gets this letter from people at Hogwarts. I think that Albus Dumbledore and Minerva McGonagall, those sound like very magic names. So I'm going to guess that they are teachers at Hogwarts and they have sent him this letter. Maybe they know his situation and it's really sad, so they want to give him this opportunity to come to this cool school. Maybe there's more magic involved with it than that. I'm not sure. So he gets the letter and he has to figure out a way to respond to the letter. Oh, and he lives in his cupboard at 4 Privet Drive, Little Whinging.
I think it's pronounced whinging.
Whinging?
Yeah.
Wingading. Okay, so he has to respond to the letter. And so he doesn't have a good situation at home, but he knows that if he sneaks into his foster father's work office, that he could get the supplies to write and mail a letter. So I think that's what the work office is about. That he has to like sneak into it. So maybe he hides in Mr. Dursley's car one morning and sneaks with him to work. And then he goes and he sneaks into the office, and he's so little, so he can just kind of like be underneath the countertops and stuff. Like people don't, like the receptionist doesn't see him walk in, and he like goes to the mail room or the copy room and steals some paper
Okay.
and a
That's
pen.
interesting.
And I'm guessing they have a mail room at this office, and he's able to mail his response letter.
Interesting.
Am I right?
I'm not going to tell you.
Okay. I'm probably not right, but that's okay. All right. So then he gets another letter from Hogwarts, from Dumbledore and Minerva. And they tell him how to get to Hogwarts. And they tell him he has to go to a zoo. So somehow he figures out a way to get his foster parents to take him and Dudley to the zoo, because he knows that that's the way to Hogwarts. And I feel like this snake is important. And like I said, the one thing I know about that tattoo is the Slytherin thing.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe snakes are just really important in general in the Harry Potter story. Much like the Bible. I'm just kidding. So they go to the zoo. And okay, the second chapter is called The Vanishing Glass. So I'm going to guess that the snake is behind like a glass enclosure, and Harry has to get through it somehow, and that the snake is going to take him to Hogwarts or aid him in his journey to Hogwarts.
Okay.
Yes. So the Vanishing Glass kind of reminds me of Lewis Carroll's Through the Looking Glass. So maybe there's kind of like a nod to that literature in there. So somehow he has to get through the glass, make it disappear, something, teleport to the other side. And then the snake helps him by taking him to the final location, which is an isolated shack, where he meets up with Hagrid. Am I saying that right?
Hagrid, yeah.
Hagrid, in the shack. And Hagrid also sounds like a magical, mystical person. So Hagrid is kind of his liaison that is then going to take him all the way to Hogwarts. And that is my prediction for the first 3 chapters of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Thank you for your prediction, Becki. We are going to now go and read the books. We'll read those 3 chapters, and then we're going to come back. And next episode, we're going to talk about what actually happened, explore those chapters together, and then she'll be making a prediction for the next 3 chapters. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.